start. So here we go. On behalf of SURANA High-Tech International School, I'm delighted to extend a very warm welcome to our audience who have joined us today from different parts of the world, which also means from different time zones. So very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone present here. Technology is often considered as a double-edged sword. While it is a great enabler in many ways, it can also be a bane for a number of reasons. Parents have often expressed their apprehensions about technology in learning regarding potential negative impacts on their children and the lack of understanding on how to effectively monitor and guide their children's digital usage. It is natural to have such apprehensions and anxieties about children and technology. But let us also not forget that today technology is an integral part of every aspect of our life, including education and learning. It is therefore important that parents and schools work together to support digital citizenship efforts to enhance the learning outcomes and not be scared of technology. Today's webinar, Responsible Digital Citizenship, is an attempt to support parents and educators in understanding why and how technology can be leveraged to enhance the learning outcomes of the students. Few instructions before we start the presentation. Please keep your mic on mute for an undisturbed and uninterrupted presentation. Use the chat box for your questions. We have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so your questions will be answered in the end. Also, I would like the attendees to know that this webinar is being recorded and is streaming live on YouTube. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers for today, Dr. Alice Owen and Dr. Sam Farsai. Dr. Alice Owen has more than 46 years in public education and nonprofit education association work. She recently retired from her position as Executive Director of the Texas Education Technology Leaders Association, which supports schools and district technology leaders throughout Texas. Her last public school district position was Division Director of Technology in Irving ISD, where she oversaw all aspects of technology operations. She managed one of the first 1:1 laptop programs in the nation. Dr. Owen earned a PhD in educational administration and political science. She has also been a bilingual teacher, principal, staff development director, adjunct professor, and executive director of educational nonprofits. Throughout her career, she gained a wide background in curriculum and instruction, professional development, educational technology, program evaluation, and project management. Dr. Owen has served on numerous state and national boards. She was presented with the Lifetime Achievement Award for Technology in Education from TCEA, that is Texas Computer Education Association, and has been honored as an outstanding leader in International Society for Technical Education. She is currently a senior partner at Visionary Technologies, LLC. Dr. Sam has served in the public and private education sector for more than 4 decades. He has served as a classroom teacher, university professor, district administrator, director, and as chief technology officer, to name a few. He has developed numerous technology systems for districts as well as state organizations along the way. Dr. Farsai earned his doctorate degree from Seidenberg School of Computer Science and Information Systems at Pace University of New York. He has served and represented multiple educational organizations at the states such as Texas, Computer Education Association, and International Society for Technology Education. Presently, Dr. Faisal is a senior partner at Visionary Technologies LLC. He is excited about the opportunities and challenges educators face with the ever-changing technologies. He constantly strives to build a vision and develop solutions for the future educators. So welcome, Dr. Alice Owen and Dr. Sam Farsai. And over to you, Dr. Alice and Dr. Sam.
Well, good morning, everyone. We're so honored to be here. Thank you so much, SURANA School, for inviting us to share what we've learned about a digital citizenship and being responsible with technology tools. We hope to share some of our things that we've learned along the way, as well as some stories and hopefully some examples that we can share with you to help you in your journey as well. And Sam?
And thank you, Alice. I would also like to thank everyone for being here today, taking the time to learn about our hopes and fears about technology and the challenges that we face. It's interesting to know that even though we are worlds apart, we are here in Texas at night, close to 11 p.m. at night, broadcasting this presentation. Yet our challenges here and there, they're the same challenges regardless. I think our perspective that we bring in based on our decades of experience, hopefully, is to present to you and demonstrate that most of our technology challenges that we face today, they're actually not technological challenges, they're actually societal challenges. And we hope to discuss that in more details as we go through.
And just piggybacking off of that many of the schools that we work with and even today are struggling with the same issues. So you're not alone. And we know that teachers and parents have concerns, and we hope to help you overcome some of those concerns through our presentation today.
And as we speak, some of the states are actually, some are just accepting of some of the challenges, and others are putting some draconian rules, which will be interesting to see whether they will be sustained over long term.
Yes, next slide.
Next slide, please. All right, probably a good approach to this is look at our history. I think if we want to see where we're headed in the future, we should have an awareness of our surrounding and look at our past to see where we come from. Not too long ago, we were primitive hunters using bows and arrows. If we wanted to prepare lunch, we had to go into the forests and take out our bows and arrows and probably hunt for our meals and prepare it. And that was just the practice of the day. And it's amazing how much things have changed in such a short period of time. So now if we look at where we are today, next slide, please. Next slide. Well, this is how we have changed. Our tools have become, instead of bows and arrows, they have changed to our phone and wallet. Now, if we want to go and prepare a meal, we use our phone to identify where is the best place to eat. And we hunt for it using our maps. And in order to prepare it, we use our wallet to make sure that the food meets our need. And that's where we are today. As you can see, not much has changed. All that has changed is the tools. And the technology of the day was bow and arrow, and technology of today is phone and wallet. So as you can see, the challenges that we're facing, they're actually not technological challenges because we've replaced one set of technology for another, but it's societal challenges. And we hope to discuss in more details about how we go about addressing some of these challenges. Next slide, please. If we look at technological development over the age, and we're going to notice that even though things change all the time, they yet remain the same in many ways. Every technology from the uh, development of fire, or discovery of fire, I should say, to wheels, a printing press, and so on, they have all had a double-edged sword. Uh, it has some blessings that enriches our society, and some challenges or some curses that the new innovations bring. And the problem is we don't know what those challenges are until some time passes and we learn how to use these new tools, new technologies. For example, fire kept us warm, but then fire was also used as weapons. Same thing with wheels. Wheels facilitate our travels, yet at the same time was used in wars. Printing press. It informed societies where information was not readily available or mass produced. And at the same time, printing press was also used for propaganda to create some unsettling conversations. Machines are the same. In the industrial age, we went through development of steam engine and cars on the road. In fact, if we look at the historical development of automobiles, a mass number of farmers in early 1900 in the United States gathered and protested development of automobiles because people were afraid that these will actually change their lives. And what are over 80% of the population who are farmers going to do in the age of machine? And what would those farmers do without work? Electricity and power tools were also facing the same challenges, even though electricity enlightened our evenings. Power tools empowered us. For example, a carpenter, instead of using hand tools, was empowered to use power tools. Did carpentry disappear as a result of using the power tools? No, but the job certainly changed. A carpenter would not spend the same amount of time using those tools. Were these carpenter's tools dangerous? Probably. But did that stop a carpenter from using them? No, because it empowered them to do a lot more, faster, and more efficiently. Information technology is no different from internet. Uh, 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 Being available to everyone in our society, from our desktop to laptops to our iPhones, in everyone's pocket, from old to young. Even today, as you're well aware, we have toddlers that they are using technology before they can speak, which is pretty remarkable. With all that technology, the new challenge is the artificial intelligence, which is actually a totally different beast. one, again, that we have no experience whatsoever with, and we are very uh, frustrated about how we're going to deal with it. But then again, any one of these technologies that I mentioned to you earlier, they were all new to us as well, and we didn't know how to apply them. Yet over time, we learn how to work with them. Uh, while we may put rules in place in order to abandon them or limit their use, we don't know what their full potential and full potential, positive or negative, is until we start using them. Information technology, looking at the positive side of it, as Ray Kurzweil in his recent book in 2024 called The Singularity is Near, he mentions that technology has done a tremendous amount of positive in our society. It has improved the literacy around the world. Uh, our education is more enriched. Today, students can sit in a classroom and travel the world without ever leaving their classroom. Uh, Here, the audio and videos from historical figures instantly at the tip of their fingers. They can look at primary documents from libraries and museums across the world where 20 years ago, no one would have even dreamed about it. The wealth that technology is producing throughout our societies. Today, we have the uh, lowest amount of poverty worldwide. And the rate of poverty has been reduced by more than 50% in the past 2, 3 decades. It's just remarkable. Uh, Sanitation, where would that be without technology? The healthcare. Uh, Technology is instantly available. Today, if I have a cough, I can instantly look up on the internet to see what the best doctors recommend, what research says, what I can go on social networks to see what the general opinion is about uh, the best way to take care of my concerns, and I'm empowered to make decisions on the best approach. Today, I can sit at home, and if I'm not feeling like going to a doctor, I can virtually talk to a doctor, whether I am in a city or rural areas where that was never available to us. Democratization of information. There was a time that, information is power. So the ones who had access to the information, they could make the best decisions. But when we democratize information, everybody has access to it. It empowers everyone. The amount of tools that used to be required to do just a presentation like what we're having today, uh, it used to take hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of studio equipment just to deliver that. Yet we're sitting here just using a laptop and some assistants, and we're talking to hundreds of people across the world. This is just remarkable opportunities. Today, even yesterday, to have a TV station, it would require millions of dollars in investment. But today, anyone can start a YouTube TV station, and they can broadcast to the world whatever they have to offer. Uh, Technology has brought a lot of surveillance, opportunity to watch us from minute to minute. Today, the belief is, I think, in New York, if you're traveling from home to work, you will be captured on video literally hundreds of times, and snapshots of you will be everywhere. Well, this can reduce violence because lots of eyes are on us. Yet at the same time, we don't want to live in a society that every move that we make is being watched either. So again, it's a double-edged sword. It brings a lot of positives and a lot of challenges. Just keep in mind that we are living in the safest world today compared to the history of humanity. Next slide, please.
I think it's also good that I think technology's been the big leveler around the world. It's brought up that level of education for everybody, or that level of access
And
for a
equity,
lot more
yes.
people. So I think it's been,
Absolutely.
that's the big leveler, I think.
Great. All right, so we looked at some of the positives, but what are some of the challenges? On the negative side, like anything positive, it's like a yin yang. The negative side or the challenges is information technology accelerates polarization and tribalization. Well, the question is it technology that is causing that, or is it us? Why is there so? I mean, I look at United States from my perspective. I know there's a lot of polarization in our political system today, and even politicians don't even talk to each other anymore. But the question is it technology that has caused this, or is it a sociological issue? And I would make the case that the challenge is all these social networks. What are they after? Advertisements. What brings advertisements? People. What brings people? Uh, Unfortunately, as the saying goes, a negative message is heard 100 times before a positive message is heard. And it is unfortunate, but it's true. If you open up any newspaper, the first thing you see is negative information because negative sells. Well, why does negative sell? Because we're concerned. We're concerned about our safety. A good news is a good news, but a bad news will immediately get our attention because we are concerned about our safety and security, and maybe that negativity will point us something that that we were not aware of. Well, unfortunately, uh, technology systems and social media leverages this. What do they want more than anything else is advertisement. Why do they want advertisement? Because that's how they make their money. So in order to make their money, the best thing that they can do is keep us glued to the devices. How do they keep us glued to the devices? Unfortunately, negative news sells. So the side effect of that is it creates polarization. It's not the intent of technology companies to bring this polarization, but it's the side effect of what they're doing. It creates tribalization. You see a lot of fake news. Well, why do fake news sell? Well, fake news sells because some person decides that if I just make this story up, then a lot of people are going to watch it. If they're going to watch it, then it's going to create advertisement. Then I may have some monetary revenue as a result. Who would have thought that we have people who are flat earthers today, that they believe that the earth is flat? Uh, I've watched some of these videos and I wonder, do these people truly believe this, or it's just a scam? It's an opportunity for them to just sell an idea to believers or people who are just stunned by it, just to be able to sell advertisement and monetize and be opportunistic. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Unfortunately, humanity is dividing itself through this process. We have nations that are becoming more and more divided. There was a time that we're looking at the global and network of nations. Uh, Today, as we speak, United States is looking at putting tariffs on nations from Canada and Mexico, which are our immediate neighbors, that where we have, I think, close to $400 billion in exchange with them, to China, which is probably our next highest competitors today. And so we are becoming isolated nations once again. It's amazing. The more and more technology that connects us, we're becoming more and more isolated. Race issues are being raised across the world. Our students are challenged by bullying, and ideologies are at its highest points, because if you have, if yesterday you had a, a strange idea like the earth is flat, and you were the only person in your town with that novel idea, today you can find hundreds or maybe even thousands of people that will unify with that idea with you. And now all of a sudden you think you have a strong voice. And now maybe the earth is flat because there is so many of us around the world that believe the world is flat. So that must be true. So again, this has created tribalism of people with some limited and minor ideas, yet they are feeling empowered, and their voices is stronger than ever. And these are challenges that we have to go through and solve. And there is no easy answer to these. Next slide, please. Now, artificial intelligence, as I said earlier, is a beast in itself. As you all know, Harari, in his brand new book that was just published in 2024, it says the first technology in history that can make decisions and create new ideas by itself. So it does not need us to make that decision. And that's a very scary thought. Artificial intelligence is not just a tool, it's an agent. Therefore, it can make multiple decisions. If you recall, not too long ago, I think it was around 2008, the financial system, mainly United States and probably around the world, almost crashed. And US had to do a lot of financial simulation in order to help banks to become solvent and be able to function. Billions of dollars were spent in order to do that. Well, the question is, how did this happen? Well, financial institutions, they follow some metrics and rules. If this happened, then do that. If the price of this stock fell more than 10%, then sell 100 shares of this stock. And if the price went up, buy 10%, buy another 100. And the rules that have been put in place, they have become so complex from every different financial institution that have put all these guardrails in order to protect their assets, that have become literally billions of lines of code that watches every move everyone makes. So if something triggers a bad news, it can have a snowball effect. And now individuals are not making that decisions, but technology, computers are making that decisions on our behalf. And that can have devastating effect, just like it did in 2008. And it almost bankrupted the world. So technology facilitates investment from any time, anywhere in the world, yet at the same time, it could have devastating effect. And that was basically a snapshot of what artificial intelligence can do. And that was in its infancy in 2008. Imagine its capability today, and yet what the future capabilities are. Now, consider the fact that the world almost went bankrupt in 2008 because of the impact of technology. Did we stop using technology? No. because the positive value that the technology we believe it brings to us outweighs the negatives. The challenge is working with this technology, learning the technology to find out where we need to put boundaries in this technology so it would not get out of hand. And that's where our challenge is today. Next slide, please.
So you've heard Sam talk a lot about the challenges and the benefits of technology. And thinking about all those challenges, it can get a little scary for teachers and parents. But I think we believe that this is all the more important that we develop higher order thinking skills in our students. We really need to think about how the world is changing so fast, and we're going to have people who can think critically in order to be able to keep up with these changes that are happening. We know that all those jobs of this past century and this century are going to soon be obsolete because of all the changes of technology and the beginning development of AI. AI is going to take over a lot of those lower level jobs and positions, and we're really going to need some critical thinkers, some innovators to really come up with some new ideas to keep people employed and think of new innovations and new jobs. So it's all the more necessary that we help our students become critical thinkers and problem solvers. So teachers and parents need to work together to think about how can we prepare students for this rapidly changing world. Then we just can't rely on the way we did things in the past. We're going to have to come up with some new ideas. But that's about working together.
And I've referenced an article here as well that if you wish, you can expand on that for your reference as well in the future, just to keep in mind.
Next slide, please. And thinking about there is really just too much information out there. So when teachers teach, we need to think of students can't know it all. So they're going to need to use technology in order to help facilitate their learning. Students must be able to be taught how to think. Again, using higher order thinking. That's an important piece in what we need to be doing in schools. And parents can help support that as well at home. We need to think of using technology to help the students, not as just a way to play games or whatever, but is a tool to really support them as they do research in their schoolwork or help with creation of projects. So it's still going to be a very important tool in the future. Technology is not going away.
Yes, and unfortunately, technology, even though our teachers are using technology, but I don't know if our education practices are changing with the technology. We're still with the mindset that here are the subjects students need to study and learn, and here's what they need to study in order to be prepared for the university. And here are all the subjects, it's math, science, social studies, language arts. But the challenge is, okay, language arts, it's important, but which literatures are the most important? Is it the local literature? Is it world literature? Is it a particular literature that we need to learn? And why is it that particular one that needs to be taught? You look at math. Why is it important for us to learn algebra? Is that really necessary? Is that going to help us with our future jobs? We really don't know. Things are changing so much that we need to learn to be more flexible with our teaching and think about what skills students need in the future. I think what students need to learn in the future more than anything else is how to think on their feet, because no matter what kind of jobs they're going to have in the future, the jobs of the future will be changing very rapidly.
They will.
And also, they need to be able to adapt, because just because they have a job today, it doesn't mean they're going to have that job tomorrow. Their job may change. Technology may change all aspects of their job, and they need to have resilience. If students do not have resilience, they will not be able to survive next 10, 20 years, because things will change so fast.
And I
Those
think-
are the skills I think
yeah.
we need to teach, rather than just teaching
Exactly.
about algebra, for
Yeah.
example.
And sometimes teachers are worried that, well, technology might replace them as a teacher, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, because teachers are the ones that are finding out what the students need. A computer can't necessarily do that. They're going to be analyzing those gaps in the students' learning. They're going to be providing a lot of that social interaction and those soft skills that you were talking about, that I think that's so important, that teacher still needs to be that facilitator, that guide in the classroom. But we're also addressing a lot of students' interest, and we can talk about that a little later as well. That that's how technology can help improve education, is by focusing on students' interest and where they would like to go in their future learning. And the topics that might lead them to a future job.
I agree with you. Technology is not going to replace the teachers, but a technology empowered teacher will replace a teacher who is not tech savvy. I can guarantee you that.
That's true. That's true. And students, and I think the teachers are really going to be still working with students to apply their knowledge and move toward those higher levels of thinking. So we really have to keep working with students to sift through all that noise on the internet, because there is so much information out there that it's really hard to tell what's good, what's not good. And we really have to teach students to figure out what is valid and reliable information on the internet, know their sources, know what's a good source and what's not, and really come up with that way to find that insight, rather than just having all this information. How do we get it down to the information they really need? And I think one of the key things that we're also talking about is that through all this process, we're not just focusing on, like Sam talked about earlier, we're not just focusing on, well, here's math and here's science and here's language arts. We're focusing on teaching students to learn how to learn, because they need to learn the appropriate ways to use these tools. These tools are not going away. So I think it's very important to teach them how to use these tools appropriately, because once they get out of school, they are going to continue to use these tools and to continue to learn on their own. So instead of trying to ban the tools, we need to teach them the appropriate ways to use them. And I think that's where both parents and teachers can help.
Yes, and I think when we talk about, the core subject, math, science, social studies, are those the only fields that that we need to be teaching? What about crossing these subjects? Could a social studies teacher work together with an English teacher to develop some projects collaboratively? What about a social studies teacher with a math teacher? What about with a science teacher? What about with art? We really need to be able to blend these subjects together. And it's not just, we're talking about the education field. I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day, and they were saying that courses in biology at the university level prerequisite for biology is going to be calculus. You have to know calculus because before you can take biology, and these were some engineers I was talking about, and they said there was a time that sciences were just pursuing medical field, but now engineers are so involved in that they are looking at totally different aspects of biology and science and how engineers can impact that, not only using technology, but all the way down to DNA and how they interact. Opening up students' minds to be able to cross the subject areas, because in real life, these subjects are not silos. They are interconnected. And we need to go back to the way things used to be. A scientist was a polymath, was a person that knew many, many subjects, not just one subject. They were masters of many subjects. And that's where we need to open up the opportunity for our students. But what's also interesting, yet at the same time, our silos are getting smaller and smaller, because there was a time that you had a medical doctor, and it was your general practitioner. You would go and talk to a doctor and say, I'm sick, and that doctor would take care of everything. Today, we don't trust a general practitioner. We want a specialist for every little thing. For example, if you want to go to a bone doctor in order to help you with maybe a broken bone, where there are doctors for that specialize on hand versus shoulder. And I mean, we're talking about so many specializations that it's just remarkable that our specialists are learning a very, very finite area. So as we prepare our students, again, I repeat, we shouldn't just limit their knowledge to just the 4 core subject areas, because the subjects, first of all, they're fluid and they are moving so dynamically. And tomorrow when they get a job, it's going to be a very fine slice of a particular area that may rapidly be changing in the future as well. It's a challenging world.
Next slide, please. And I think what Sam's basically talking about is, and what we think is a great way to teach, is project-based learning. This is going to allow kids to follow their curiosity and their passions of what they really want to learn about, and also provide them an opportunity to go deeper into some of the subjects so they can find out, maybe become a specialist in some of those areas. And project-based learning is basically thinking, but also socializing, because a lot of times they're working with other students on a project, and it's typically a lot of hands-on activities. So those are the great things that teachers can do in the classroom. And then also parents can help at home, because a lot of times that's what you're doing at home. As kids learn, especially at early ages, they learn by watching other people and really getting their hands on things. So that's just something that comes naturally to kids, I believe.
And unfortunately, even though the more technology we have, the more connected we are, unfortunately, the more isolated we've become at the same time. Today's students, even though they have devices in their hand, they're not good at communicating. It's just amazing that they can text each other all day long, yet they cannot have a face-to-face conversation. So I think our school's responsibility is give them opportunities so they can work together collaboratively, communicate, collaborate, challenge each other, work with each other to achieve certain goals. Not only it prepares them at school, it makes them a better person and well-rounded person, but it actually prepares them for their future jobs as well.
Next slide, please. So I think what we're talking about here is a real balanced approach. The like Sam said, the focus should be, we need to start preparing students for their future. So we need a balanced approach of using the technology, but also finding the appropriate way to use the tools to help them. They need to be aware of risk and the consequences of any actions they might take. But we find that bans don't really work well because students will just find other apps they can go to or get ways to get around any bans that are put in place. So it's best to help them learn how to use the tools appropriately for educational purposes. And, fun times at a certain point of the day, where they can use it appropriately for enjoyment as well.
I share a story with you. This is probably more than a decade ago. We had at one school, they had decided that they should ban telephones in classrooms. And they were going, and when students had phones in their hand during school day, they would confiscate the phone and they would lock it up. And I was going around, and this is, I'm talking about less than 10 years ago, and was going around and noticing that all these phones that I've been collecting, I was like, these poor kids, a lot of them are still using flip phones. And this is terrible. I'm surprised that they don't have any more modern devices. Come to find out that students were carrying two different phones, an old outdated telephone in one pocket and their modern phone in the other. And then when they were challenged to give up their phone, they would give up the old phone. So when you try to ban things, students will always find a way around it. It is almost impossible to stop them. Why? Because their safety and security depends on that. Remember that first slide that I shared with you? The hunters use their bow and arrow. Their phone is their bow and arrow. Their safety depends on it. We had a grandchild actually just recently. She was preparing to go to school. She was kind of late, and she was running around like mad in the house looking for her phone. So we just said, "Well, forget it, just leave." She said, "No, I can't live without a phone. It's a safety issue."
Yeah.
To her, the phone was a safety device. And that's something I hadn't thought about it. And this is a teenager that's talking about
They rely on them a lot. And I know parents like it too, because they want to be able to communicate to their kids, say after school, I'm coming to pick you up, or meet me here, or whatever it is. So they do think it's a very good safety tool. And,
Right. So instead of forcing them banning things, I think we need to rely on great stories and ethics that exist in our society. Look at India with their rich story about ethics and even we have observed it in SURANA schools personally. What great shows that they put together about lessons in life. We need to leverage those, update those with the technology tools, and create scenarios so students would have a better understanding of actions and consequences. Because not only you're preparing the students for school in school, but you're also preparing them for tomorrow. If they don't make those mistakes in school and suffer the consequences, then they're going to make those mistakes at work, and it's going to be a lot more costly.
next slide, please. And I think what we're talking about here is really focusing on solutions, not just the problems. There'll always be problems, but we need to really focus on the solutions and not dwell on the problems. And we're going to be talking about giving you some examples of how we might do that. Next slide, please. I I think one of the best ways we can do that is helping students to focus on appropriate use and acceptable behaviors and norms as they're using technology. So some examples are, you think of in your country, you take your shoes off before you go into the temples. That's a norm that you all have in your country, maybe a religious norm. And then,
And students don't break it.
yeah, that's right. Everybody knows that. And again, in many cultures, respecting elders is a pretty universal social norm that a lot of people follow. And so how do students learn these things? Well, they learn them through adult modeling. The adults are modeling those things for them, and then the students are practicing them. And so that's the way that we can teach them, show them the acceptable use, and then give them opportunities to practice. And they'll learn it if that becomes habits for them as well.
And
Next,
the earlier we start
That's
that,
right.
the more effective it is going
that's
to
right,
be.
even from young ages. Next slide, please. So therefore, I think we need to establish some codes and ethical boundaries for students. And I'm going to show you an example in a minute, but one of the things that we've done when we worked with our laptop program, we had very similar issues that, students weren't using the equipment properly, and parents were upset about certain things, and teachers didn't understand how to teach the kids. So we really had to come up with um, a code of conduct, basically, a way that students should use these tools appropriately. And we call it responsible use because everybody has some responsibilities for it. And so what we did was we formed an advisory group and we brought all the stakeholders in, the student leaders, the parents, the teachers, the central office administrators. So everybody came in and everybody had a role in helping develop these boundaries, if you will. And then we developed a brochure. I'll show you an example in just a minute. And we just had a big group and they brainstormed all the ways that they could help and be a part of this because everybody has a piece. It's not just one group. We can't say it's all the teacher's responsibility. No, parents have some responsibility in this, and students definitely have some responsibility in this. So we brainstormed ideas of what they needed to do, and then we helped train them and reinforced all of the positive behaviors as they went through using this tool. Next slide, please. I'll just show the example, and I don't know if you all can see this, but basically we just ended up creating a little brochure. And what we did was, as we brainstormed, each group, we gathered parents together, we gathered students together, we gathered teachers together, and they came up with, okay, so what knowledge do our parents or our students need to have in relation to this, using these tools? And what should their attitudes about these be? And then what skills would they need to know in order to operate these tools correctly? And what were their aspirations? What were they really aspiring to be able to do with these tools? And then last was behavior. How should they behave using these tools? So we set up this brochure, and it was really the process that was really the most important of getting all of our stakeholders to talk about what was important and what were the responsibilities and expectations from every group, and realizing that all groups had some responsibilities and some behavior expectations that we wanted from everyone.
Next slide, please. So it's about appropriate behavior. Students act one way at home and a different way at school. If we have students that are trained consistently at home and at school, then we'll have better success because we may control what goes on at home, We may control what goes on at school, but what about between home and school? You can't manage that. That only can come through ethical habits. So if we develop those habits at home and reinforce those at school, then hopefully they'll also be followed between home and school among students as they travel from home to school. So again, ethics is the answer. You cannot block students. If you block the technology at home, if you block the technology at school, what about when they're on the streets?
And when parents and and teachers work together, the home and the school work together, then they're helping students make good choices. So hopefully when they're with their peers, they'll continue to make good choices.
Next slide, please. And the ethical leadership goes beyond school too. If you a survey of Gen Z by Deloitte, and I've provided the link to this as well for you, says that about 70% of millennials and Gen Zs think that business focus more on their own agenda than considering the wider society's benefit. Well, that's unfortunate. The students that we prepare today, they're going to be business people of tomorrow. So we need to set those best practices and good habits, again, using ethical practices at an early age. So by the time they grow up, then they have instilled those positive attitudes and they take that to work. And then as a result of that, the society will benefit from it. We will benefit from it as a result of that. So therefore, it's not just what happens in school, what happens at home. Business has to be involved in this process as well, because ultimately they are the beneficiary of this relationship. Next slide, please. And how do we instill these ethical behaviors? Well, we can model that. Students learn by modeling. Why you look at a toddler, a little baby wants to walk. Why do they want to learn how to walk? Because we walk. So we're modeling for them. And they make every effort possible in order to make sure that they learn how to walk and mimic what we do. And they are reinforced and rewarded for their behavior. When they are successful, we cheer them on that you were able to take your first step and help them along the way. And when they fall, then we capture that. We try to distinguish that negative behavior of crying and getting upset, and we encourage them positively to continue. Otherwise, the babies would never learn how to walk. Next slide, please. Change of behavior in psychology, probably the most renowned psychologist, B.F. Skinner. There's a lot of research on that. You can learn about how you can change a person's approach and how to teach them new skills. And I've shared with you this renowned book in US that used to be taught in many of education programs as a psychology course. It's called Don't Shoot the Dog by Karen Pryor. She was a dolphin trainer. She worked with NASA, and her work was so amazing that even B.F. Skinner himself has made comments about her, and I've referenced that here for you. If you want to learn more about how to manage behaviors positively through positive reinforcement, I have actually the link that I've shared here with you is to the actual book. The entire book is available to you, and the synopsis link also provides you with a short review of it as well. Next slide. So this is a continuing improvement process. It's not like we can sit there, come up with a plan, and the answer is there. Technology is constantly changing, and we have to put the technology through its paces, learn to see what its strengths and weaknesses are, and work collaboratively with a large group of all stakeholders to come up with new ideas, test it, and check, see if it works. If not, adapt and try a new approach. And there is no easy solution to any of this. We just have to work at it and work at it hard, and hopefully the result will be something positive. Next slide. So our goal should be to help students discover their self. The focus should be self, not selfies. We need to help students remove the masks and discover who they really are, not who they pretend to be on social network sites, which is there's an upmanship every minute of the day that look at this fake world that I'm living in. Well, that's not real. We need to help students discover who they truly are. And as educators, that is our job. Earlier, we talked about the role of educators and whether technology would replace educators. I think you can bring a talking head just like we are, bring the best lecturer in order to deliver the best lesson. But what's going on, the dynamics of the classroom is the most important part. I think the social aspect of learning is what teachers can bring to the classroom. And that can never be replaced by technology.
Yeah. And I think, that they've shown studies that all of the comparisons that kids do looking at Instagram and thinking that other people are having a better life than they are, it's really damaging to their social emotional side of them. And so that's one thing I think is a good reason to have this balance in how we use technology and use it for good purposes. But again, helping find out who they are and that life is real and they need to be a part of life, not in some
The virtual world.
instead of a virtual world.
Yes. Next slide, please. In conclusion, we believe that each child is a unique miracle in our universe. Our role is to help each one of these students to grow and discover their uniqueness. And as educators, help them reach their full potential. That's our role as educators, to help them be the best they can be. And they all have something unique to contribute because we all have different DNAs. Through thousands of generations, each of us have become very unique individual. There is no one like you. There's just you. Only one in the universe. There's just one you. And if wouldn't it be a shame not to discover what your full potential is as an individual? I think that's what we need to do as educators. Thank you all.
Thank you. And we'll be happy to take some questions. If you have any, to please put them in the chat.
Right. Vani, let the presentation be up on the screen. But Sam and Alice, that was really very, very insightful. And while the questions are coming in on the chat, I have a few questions. Okay, my first question, which actually came up from the teachers that I interacted with, is, will easy availability of information affect the absorption and retention of knowledge? So that is something, the teachers wanted to know from
Great
both.
question.
Yes.
Well, ease and availability of information. Very good. Remember, I think I remember my age, the biggest challenge for classroom teachers was whether they should allow calculators in the classroom or not. Remember that? Uh,
Yes, yes,
did,
absolutely. Yes, yes.
did after decades of fighting, did we stop that? Calculators in India, do they allow calculators in the classroom?
We do, but we also, we have a very balanced approach towards that.
Right.
While we
Absolutely.
want the students to know how to calculate and how to use the operations, mathematics, calculators are also allowed. In fact, there are boards which now allow calculators even for the exams. And the thought process behind it is that when you have technology doing something for you, why spend time on doing the simple addition or multiplication? Instead, spend time on thinking about the problem. And
Mm.
yeah, so that was something, some of the boards, education boards allow calculators to be used even in the examination halls.
Yes, because those questions that are asked today, they're
Right,
not simple, readily available, memorized questions that a calculator can answer, but you have to do some calculations.
Mhm.
right.
So you use the tool to ask higher level questions. So that applies to information as well. Well, if information is readily available to students, then how can we allow that the computers or tablets or phones in the classroom because they look it up? Well, that's because we're asking lower level questions, not higher level questions. So if you use ChatGPT not as the answer, but use ChatGPT to ask the question and prompt and use ChatGPT's response as your starting point of the conversation, not the end point. So now the conversation goes at a much higher level. For example, imagine if you're teaching about World War II. Okay, who were the allies? Well, that's a easy questions that I can look up on my device. But if we ask totally different questions, what if the Allies had lost? Where would our world be today? So now all of a sudden, students have to think differently. Just looking up the information is not enough. Now it's at a higher level.
Right.
Students have to think about it. They not only they should have the general information, and you can ask them, you can look up the information to learn as much as you want about World War II, but now I want to know what if the Allies had lost. So now the student is not only has to know the basics, but they also have to learn how to apply it.
Absolutely.
Thank
There is a question from Pavitra. Do you have tips on safety on the internet for children? How do you view the use of apps that only whitelist certain parts of the content for the child? So this is a question from one of our attendees.
Okay. Um, Again, I think it's, coming up with a balanced approach to how you teach your kids how to use the internet and safety. That you're not going to, let your student watch TV all day long. And so the same applies for the internet. I think it's a good thing to come up with some parameters, some boundaries about how much time you want them to spend on the internet. And that can be one of those conversations that your parents and your teachers have about what's appropriate. And it could differ depending on the age of your student, too. Then also, talking with them about places that are good to go, guiding them to the appropriate places where they will find the information they need, but then also do some just-in-time learning with them in case they come across something that might not be appropriate. Then that's a good teaching moment to talk about why that site might not be a good site, whether it's providing some misinformation or just inappropriate information, then use that as a teaching moment and talk to them about that so they'll be able to identify the sites that are reliable and valid and provide them with that information that they need.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a multi-route approach. You need to have policy in place that what the best practices are and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So that's the first P. The second P is you need to have products, tools in place that help navigate what is appropriate. There are a lot of tools out there that limit students. They're not perfect, but they're better than allowing students to just go to any site and every site at school and practice reinforcing what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So using the 3 Ps would help.
Right. To add to this, Sam and Alice, if I may say, we had a very, very enriching discussion in our school a couple of weeks back as to how to use videos as a learning devices, like, what kind of opportunities do these videos provide for learning? And it was interesting to see, the kind of discussions that we can have using these videos. So it all depends upon how we use it. So if we allow them to watch a video for certain kind of learning, we must set a task which is very thought provocative and not just to have them watch the video and then summarize what they have seen. But instead, we should have tasks which can make them think deeper about whatever they are watching, collaborative tasks, individual tasks, and also maybe beforehand let them know what is the objective of this exercise, why are we watching this video, what are the areas that we should focus on. And I can tell you, I can guarantee that, then videos become a very, very powerful devices for learning. And then the students won't get distracted. Then the focus is on the task. They know what they're going to do after the videos. So that's very helpful. Another question for you, Sam, and this is more from the perspective of the parents. How should parents view the growing reliance on teaching on technology for education? So I mean, specifically for parents, how should they view this growing reliance? I know your presentation covered a lot on that, but if you can just, give us a very nice, crisp, short answer, it'll be really helpful, because parents are always very, skeptical and asking questions about the use of technology.
Absolutely. Well, technology is not going away. The examples that we looked at, did we get rid of fire because it was dangerous? No. What about electricity? Electricity is dangerous. It can be dangerous. So technology is here to stay, whether we like it or not. If we don't use the technology, then our competitors, being the next student, the next company, the next nation, will take advantage of that. So the challenge is to find out what the strengths this technology brings and what weaknesses are inherent in it. And our job is to identify the weaknesses and work to eliminate as much of those as possible. We can never get rid of all of them. But if we can curtail that and manage it, then we are better prepared. Because after this technology, if you block this, guess what? There's going to be a next technology which is going to be a lot more sophisticated than that. And if you're not prepared, and if you don't go along with this technology, then you won't know how to manage it.
I think sometimes it's a little scary for parents at the beginning, because just like we talked about calculators earlier, sometimes the technology, when it's new, we haven't really figured out the processes and procedures yet, or the ethical uses of the technology. But over time, and the more you learn how to use it appropriately, then the better those processes and procedures become. and the easier it is to use and the less worry you have about it. So I still think it's extremely important for parents and teachers to work together to talk about, what are the boundaries? What's that balance? How do we set up our procedures and processes to make it the most beneficial use of the technology?
I
Good.
think we tend to get blindsided by technology because we don't know enough about it. My solution to this is always, anytime you want to solve a technology problem, take the technology out of it and look at a similar problem throughout history to see what we did about this. For example, cars. Cars were very dangerous. When they first came about, there were no street signs, there were no street lights, so they were very dangerous. People were getting killed all the time. We didn't stop using automobiles. We came up with rules. Are the rules perfect? No. We're constantly changing them. Even after a century, we're still modifying those rules. But ignoring it and abandoning it is not going to solve the problem.
Absolutely. There's another question from Soumya. Does overexposure to readily available visual auditory information limit or hamper students' imagination and creativity? That's interesting.
Well, visual, auditory, those are all of our senses. So applying all of our senses should actually empower us to be more creative. We have all these senses within us. So combining the senses should actually give us more power. The key is not to look at this again. It all goes back to Bloom's taxonomy level. We shouldn't look at things at the lowest levels of Bloom. It's the lower thinking skills and higher level of thinking skills. If we put these together, these assets, in order to analyze and synthesize and create using all these tools at our disposal, it would make our students' life a lot richer and more interesting than just have remembering and understanding level. It has to be applied at a high level.
I think that I always look at my granddaughters because they use the internet and videos all the time to learn about new things. When my granddaughter was a lot younger, she would make all these little animals and figures out of rubber bands, and then she moved on to crocheting, and I was just amazed at how she could do all this. And I said,
Self-taught.
how did you
Right.
learn all this? And
Right.
she said, I saw it on a video
Yeah.
on the internet. And so they find ways to learn about things on their own. And there's just a wealth of knowledge out there on the internet that, is good to help students learn about something that they're interested in and something that they really feel is valuable to learn. Of course, again, we have to guide them because there are some things out there too that aren't the best either. So that's one way that parents and teachers can help guiding their student to good places to find that information.
Right. So actually, it enhances the creativity and imagination.
Absolutely.
So I think it does.
Okay. So another question here is, how can technology help personalize learning to meet the individual needs of the students?
As we mentioned, we're all unique individuals with different archetypes and capabilities, innate capabilities, and we don't know what those are. And each student is unique. So technology, along with a great coach, a great teacher, helps students discover their full potential. And that is what we need to focus on. To me, the most important thing we need to teach the students is not the 4 core subjects. It's help them discover who they are.
Absolutely.
Finding their curiosity, their passions, and using those tools to help.
Right. And once their curiosity is awakened, you don't have to motivate them. They're self-motivated because that's their passion. Push them toward their passion, whatever it is.
Yeah. We have seen this happening in our school. When we have project-based learning and we integrate it with technology, ICT, the interest level increases, and the children are constantly thinking, okay, even if I'm doing a project on history, how can I use ICT to combine, with history and create a product? So that is something which we have seen firsthand happening, through project-based learning. So that's interesting.
That's the beauty of project-based learning, because a teacher should never think about how can I integrate technology. That should never be in their conversation. If you do this at a high level, technology will naturally come in. You should never focus on technology. Technology should never be the focus. You should do things at a high level. Technology will just be there because it's a necessary tool to accomplish that.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Sam and Dr. Alice, for sharing invaluable insights on the use of technology for learning. I'm sure every parent and educator here today has gained insights on how technology can be used as a powerful and a positive force in our learning spaces. Thank you so much once again. And I want our audience to know that we will be coming up with more such webinars. The idea is to come up with at least one webinar every month. And our next webinar is going to be sometime in the last week of February. And we are going to invite another prominent speaker for this webinar. So please please remain connected with us through the community group for more information on the webinar and also for the other details. So Mr. Keith Kruger has kindly agreed to again help us gain more insights on how education and technology can be brought together for the betterment of the students and how to use it to enhance the learning outcomes of the students. So as you can see, Keith K. Kruger is the CEO of the Consortium of School Networking, a nonprofit organization that serves as the voice of K-12 school systems, technology leaders in North America. He was selected by EdTech for its 2019 30K to 12 IT influencers. In 2016, Technology and Learning selected him as one of the Big 10 most influential people in EdTech. And the Center for Digital Education identified him as a top 30. So remain connected with us through the community forum. And we're looking forward to many such more insightful discussions. So thank you all. Thank you everyone for taking time out on Sunday morning and being with us here today. If you still have questions on whatever was discussed today, you please feel free to write to us. Our school email ID is info@suranahightech.com. You can also put it in the, you can also send us WhatsApp message. The numbers are there in the group. And yes, thank you once again for being here. And once again, thank you, Dr. Sam and Dr. Alice. It was a real pleasure.
Loved it.
And great insights. Thank you so much.
We wish you great conversations with your parents and teachers, and good luck with all your students.
I think it's just going to start now, and I'm sure as schools we can come together to have debates on it. We probably, if there are schools here, we can organize online debates with high school students. We'll be happy to do that. If the teachers want to come together for any support, we'll be happy to do that as well. So it's again like what you said, Sam and Alice, that we should work collectively for this. And that is what we are going to do. We are now going to invite our parents also to have some brainstorming session on whatever was discussed today. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.